assembly, the Bingleys and Mr. Darcy returned to Netherfield. Mrs. Bennet and her daughters returned to Longbourn. The girls retreated to their rooms to speak of the dance, of love, and of course, Mr. Bingley. And Mrs. Bennet found Mr. Bennet in the parlour.
Thank you, Sarah. Oh, listen, girls. Oh, my. Jane behaved just so beautifully. Why, my dear, he's half in love with you already. Oh, darling. It was such a lovely. And you danced every dance, Kitty? My good girl. Yes. Putting yourself out there, as I like to say. Good night, Kitty. Good night, Kitty. Good night, dears. Oh, Mr. Bennet. Oh, the girls and I had a most pleasant evening. Oh, Jane was so admired. Everybody said how well she looked. Indeed, Mr. Bingley must have thought so, for he danced with her twice. Of course, he asked Charlotte Lucas for the first dance. It was vexing, but in the end, I do not think that he admired her at all. Indeed, nobody can. Poor creature. Well, and then he danced with Lizzie. Oh, and he danced the next with that Mariah Lucas.
If then you had any compassion for me, you would not have danced so much. Please, say no more as partners. Make me wish he'd sprained his ankle.
Oh, and I'm quite delighted with Mr. Bingley. Oh, just so you know, he is excessively handsome. And his sister, oh, she's the most charming person, so elegant and refined. Why, I never saw anything more beautiful than the lace on Miss Bingley's...
Spare me the description of ladies' finery. I have not the disposition for such a conversation.
Oh, well, there was a bit of unpleasantness, though. Mr. Bingley's friend, Mr. Darcy, is a shockingly rude gentleman. He slighted our Lizzie, you know, and flatly refused to dance with her.
He did he?
Darcy, you must admit to having never been in a room with more agreeable people.
They did seem most anxious to please.
We hold different opinions on the subject.
And Miss Jane Bennet, surely you have never seen a more beautiful angel.
She smiled too much.
There was a normality about the evening. Indeed, none of the awkwardness that you often find at these events.
I must admit, all look quite charming to us. Surely you can find some goodness in the evening, Mr. Darcy.
I'm sorry to say I cannot. There was no one in the room, besides my present company, who held any interest for me.
Well, if you are so determined to be disagreeable towards the town, I shall not argue it. I dare say I would not mind becoming better acquainted with Miss Jane Bennet. I wonder if some dinners could be arranged.
Here, preferably. I do like to preside over a pleasant dinner table. And I think dinner at the Bennets, with Mrs. Bennet presiding, could be at best, well, disagreeable.
We shall arrange a dinner party then, here in Netherfield. Indeed, if I continue to like it here, I might consider giving a ball.
I am quite tired. It has been a busy evening.
The company was certainly tired.
I shall sleep the sleep of angels tonight.
In the following week, Jane and Miss Bingley were to meet occasionally, and it was clear there was a mutual attraction. Although they had never been alone with one another, their admiration for each other was duly noted.
Such a week, Mr. Bennet. Oh, the news of Mr. Bingley's admiration for Jane is spreading all over town.
Mr. Bingley and his sister are all politeness. Do not think too much on it.
Well, it really is too bad that his rich friend, Mr. Darcy, does not have the same manners.
Mr. Darcy deigned to speak
Now I'm convinced.
I am astonished, Mr. Bennet, that you should be so ready to pronounce your own children as silly. Why, if a smart young colonel with 4,000 or 5,000 a year should want one of my girls, I would not say no to him.
And what do you think of the soldiers married? I know you to be a deep thinker.
I am not tempted by uniforms.
Mary, you're not as silly as your younger sisters.
A message from Miss Jane Bennet, ma'am. Thank you, Sarah.
Oh, Jane, who is it from? Make haste, dear Jane, and tell us, what does it say?
It is from Miss Kingley.
Oh, that is good. That's very good.
It says, "My dear friend, if you are not so compassionate as to dine today with me, I shall be quite lonesome, for my brother and his friend are to dine with the officers tonight. Come as soon as you can upon receipt of this. Caroline, see please."
Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy are to dine with the officers. Troublesome! The officers shall pay attention only to them and ignore us.
May I have the carriage?
No, my dear. He is to dine with the officers. That is most unlucky. No, my dear, you may not have the carriage. You must go on horseback, for it is likely to rain, and then you will have to stay all night.
That is a good scheme. Of course, they may offer to take her home in their carriage.
Oh, hadn't thought of that. Oh, but the men will be taking their chaise to dine in town. Well, there will be no carriage to bring Jane home in. Oh, this could work out quite well. Sarah, please respond that Jane will arrive on horseback within the hour.
Very good.
Oh, now, Jane, you really must make yourself presentable. Go along, your sisters will help you. Come on, dear.
Miss Charlotte Lucas has come to call on Elizabeth.
Oh, show her in! Oh, she does come at the most inopportune times. Oh, and Mr. Bennet, please see to it that Jane has a horse ready for her.
All this scheming, I'm not sure even the horses would approve.
Come on, girls, let's help Jane. Oh, now, darling, you really must wear your blue dress. Oh, dear.
Mine a busy household. Oh, all silliness and schemes to get Jane and Mr. Bingley together, I'm afraid.
That is not such a bad thing. It is apparent from the talk of the town that Mr. Bingley does like your sister. But he may never do any more than merely like her if she does not encourage him.
Encourage him.
Mr. Darcy, Mr. Bingley and your sister have met often enough this past week, but they are never alone. It is always in large mixed parties. She must secure his attention now. She can decide if she's in love with him later.
She's only known him for a week. It is not enough time to decide if she's in love.
It is enough time to decide if he is a suitable partner for marriage.
Jane's not looking for a good marriage. I believe that she is searching for love.
Whatever the outcome, I wish Jane success with all my heart. I believe that happiness in marriage is merely a chance. It may be better to know as little about your marriage partner as possible. It will make the years together seem more interesting. And I am certain it is helpful to know as little as possible about the defects of your partner with whom you want to spend your life with.
Oh, Charlotte, how you do make me laugh. But it is not sound reasoning. You surely do not take your own advice.
Setting aside talk of Jane and Mr. Bingley, I have noticed you been getting more than your fair share of attention from Mr. Bingley's friend.
Oh, strange, is it not? The man who does not find me a suitable dance partner finds me tolerable in conversation. And he's always hovering. Why is it do you think he does that?
I'm afraid that's a question that only Mr. Darcy can answer. Oh dear, I should be heading home. For it looks as if the rains will soon come.
Which is what my mother is hoping for.
Pardon me?
Never mind. It's just, I'm noticing my mother's scheme may actually work. Come, I'll walk you part of the way.
was situated only 1 mile from Meryton, where the Bennet sisters' aunt and uncle lived. It housed many officers of the regiment. Consequently, Liddy and Kitty found a need to visit Meryton several times a week, and as Netherfield was only 3 miles away, Longbourn was well situated to fulfill the needs of many family members.
A letter from the Bingleys, ma'am.
Give it to me, please. I'm most anxious for news about Jane. I must say, the rains have cooperated nicely. Jane has spent the night at the Bingleys just as I planned it.
It is for Elizabeth.
Well, hurry please, Lizzie. Read it out loud.
My dearest Lizzie, I feel very unwell this morning, which I suppose is to be imputed by my getting wet yesterday. My kind friends will not hear me returning until I am better.
Oh,
Except for sore throat and headache, there is nothing much wrong with me. Yours, Jane.
oh, this has turned out even better than I hoped.
Well, my dear, if your daughter should die, it'd be a comfort to know it was all in pursuit of Mr. Bingley, and under your orders.
People do not die of trifling colds, Mr. Bennet. She'll be well taken care of if she stays there.
I am resolved to see her.
How can you be so silly? With all this rain, there is nothing but mud between here and Netherfield. You will not be fit to be seen when you get there.
I shall be very fit to see Jane, which is all I want.
Is this a hint, Lizzie? To, send for the horses?
No, I do not wish to avoid the walk. It is a mere 3 miles. I shall be back before dinner.
While I admire your desire to be with sister, I do believe the exertion to be proportioned with what is required.
I think it is a splendid idea, and I shall accompany you as far as Meryton. I do wish to get a glimpse of some of the soldiers. I shall visit our aunt.
And I shall go also. Maybe we will see something of Captain Carter before he goes.
It is settled then. You shall visit your red coats, and I shall visit Jane. I shall make a full report by dinner time.
Come along, Mary.
Is Miss Bennet resting?
Yes, the poor child. I'm afraid she was at most of the night with fever.
Thank you for taking such good care of her.
Of course. Are you riding again to your sister, Mr. Darcy?
Indeed I am.
Has she much grown since I last saw her?
Indeed she has. I think her to be about the height of Miss Elizabeth Bennet.
Elizabeth Bennet? Whatever made you think of her?
I was merely comparing heights. Although there is even more resemblance. Something in the eyes, a quickness.
Indeed. Well, I thought you found her barely tolerable. When am I to wish you joy?
That is exactly the sort of statement that I would expect to hear from a woman. A lady's imagination is very rapid indeed. It jumps from admiration to love, and then love followed by marriage in a moment. You are certainly predictable.
If you're going to be so serious about it, I shall do more than wish you joy. Mrs. Bennet will make a charming mother-in-law, and she'll no doubt be dependably with you.
I thank you for your best wishes. You are always amusing.
Pray tell your sister that I long to see her.
I've already done that at your request, remember?
Miss Bennet to see you, sir, and Miss Elizabeth Bennet.
Oh, we shall soon have the mother here if we're not careful.
Please sit down. Sure in.
Good morning, Mr. Bingley, Miss Bingley, Mr. Darcy.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
I'm so sorry for this interruption. I've come to check on my sister. How is she?
Feverish, I'm afraid, but she's resting.
We are giving her the best of care.
I feel certain you are. Would you bring me to her?
Of course, I'll have Susanna show you to her room.
How How goes your admiration of Miss Elizabeth Bennet now? Imagine scampering about the country because your sister has a cold. Her hair was so untidy, and her petticoat, 6 inches of it caked with mud. I'm afraid this adventure might bring down your esteem of her fine eyes.
Not at all. They were brightened with the exercise.
We were just discussing Miss Elizabeth Bennet. Were we not, Mr. Darcy? To walk 3 miles of mud and quite alone, a most country town indifference to decorum.
It shows an affection for a sister that is very pleasing.
Of course, I have the highest regard for Jane Bennet. Well, she's a very sweet girl, and I wish with all my heart to see her well settled. But with such low connections, I'm afraid there is no chance.
Excuse me, my sister is resting. May I borrow a book to read?
Of course. How is she?
Not as well as I had hoped. If it is not an inconvenience, I'd like to spend the rest of the day with her and leave late afternoon.
Why, you must stay until she's better. I shall have a carriage dispatch to pick up anything you might need.
It is settled. You will spend the day with your sister. We will have a room prepared for you this evening.
You are very kind.
I imagine you to be a great reader, who despises cards and has little pleasure in anything else.
I deserve neither such censure nor such praise. I take pleasure in many things.
Have you finished your letter to your sister? I do long to see her again. I cannot remember when I was last acquainted with anyone who delighted me as much, and her accomplishments are many.
It amazes me how women have the patience to become so accomplished. They all paint tables, net purses, and cover screens.
Your list of common accomplishments, covering screens and netting purses, holds too much truth. But there should be more to being truly accomplished, don't you think? In the ways of the world, I scarcely know 6 women who could be considered truly accomplished.
My goodness, you must expect a great deal in your idea of an accomplished woman.
Indeed. An accomplished woman must have a thorough knowledge of music, singing, drawing, dancing, knowledge of all the modern languages, and still must possess a certain something in her air, in her manner of walking.
And even more. I dare to say that she must add something more substantial. She should also improve her mind through extensive reading.
I am not surprised then at you knowing only 6 accomplished women. It is a wonder you know any. I never saw such a woman. This looks to be an interesting book, if you will excuse me.
It seems to me that Eliza Bennet is one of those young ladies who seeks to recommend herself to the other sex by undervaluing her own.
I sense this conversation is drawing to an end. I shall have a letter dispatched to the Bennet family to tell them that their daughter will be spending the night.
What do you think, Mr. Bennet? Jane, Elizabeth, and Jane have both been asked to spend the night at Netherfield, and I have also been invited to see if Jane is well enough to come home.
I shall get the carriage.
Oh, no, don't be ridiculous. Suppose Jane is well enough to travel. Then I should be obliged to bring her home. I am not ready to do that, Mr. Bennet. Not with 2 of my girls at Netherfield. Why, all would be spoiled.
I would much rather like them home. I do miss their conversation.
And we have 3 other daughters to keep us company with their chattering.
Mamma, we have been to our uncle's. And what do you think? We have found out that many officers have been dining with them of late. Is that wonderful for us?
And there is talk that Colonel Forster is to be married.
It is of no consequence to any of us, where officers dine and when strangers plan to marry. I wonder at your curiosity of things that do not involve any of us.
Ah, the chatter. Right now I'm missing Jane and Lizzie very much. Very much indeed.
I trust Miss Bennet is resting comfortably.
She is. Thank you for asking.
How pleasant it is to spend an evening this way. There is no enjoyment like reading. When I have a house of my own, I shall shall be miserable if I do not have an excellent library. By the by, Charles, are you serious about holding Bullet Netherfield?
I am. And as soon as Miss Jane Bennet is better, I shall be sending out cards.
Miss Eliza Bennet, would you like to take a turn about the room? It's very refreshing after sitting for a bit. Mr. Darcy, would you care to join us?
As I can only imagine two motives for the two of you to decide to walk together, I must decline.
Please, Mr. Darcy, explain yourself. What are our motives?
Either you have decided to walk together because you have secret confidences to share, or you are aware that your figures are shown to greater advantage if you walk.
Well, that is shocking of you to say so. Absolutely abominable. What shall we do in return?
Why tease him, laugh at him? You know him well what to do.
Upon my honor, I do not know him well enough to choose or laugh at him.
Mr. Darcy's not to be laughed at. Oh, that is a loss, for I dearly love a laugh.
Do you think that anyone, even the wisest and best of men, can be ridiculed by a laugh?
I hope I do not ridicule what is wise and good. Follies and whims and nonsense do divert me, I confess. I laugh at them whenever I can. However, I suppose you are not whimsical or nonsensical. Therefore, no one can laugh at your follies, for you have none.
It has been my desire to avoid those traits which one might ridicule.
Traits such as vanity and pride.
I do concede that vanity is a weakness. Pride, however, can be justified, especially when there is a true superiority of the mind.
Now that you've examined Mr. Darcy, how do you find him?
I'm convinced Mr. Darcy has no defect.
No, I have made no such pretension. I have faults enough. My temper can be too unyielding. I always remember offenses against myself, and my good opinion. Well, once it is lost forever.
Oh, it is a failing indeed then, but you are safe from me. You've chosen your fault well, and it is one I cannot really laugh at.
I believe that everyone's disposition has something dark, some defect, that even the best education cannot overcome.
And your defect is to be superior to everyone.
And yours is to willfully misunderstand.
Shall we hear some music? Caroline, will you play? That would be an agreeable way to end.
Excuse me, I feel the need to retire. I intend to be early to care for my sister. If she is feeling better, we shall see about returning home.
Of course. Your company will be missed. Won't it, Mr. Darcy?
Of course.
Yes. Good night.
Good night.